On this episode of AV Week, we are coming to you from the offices and studios of AV Magazine. Chris Neto and I are over here in the UK. Mike Blackman and Clive Coldwell joins us as we talk Brexit and the impact it will have on both the UK, European, and US integrators. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 425, recorded Friday, October 11th, 2019. Live from London.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Atlas IED, innovative audio solutions for every business environment, and by Kramer, AV Beyond the Box, and by Daylight, the leading producer of high-quality projection screens worldwide.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. Even if you're listening to this, I sound a little different. If you're watching, obviously, I look slightly different, or at least in a different location. We are coming to you from the AV Magazine offices, so thank you very much. Chris Neto and I are here in London for the AV Magazine Awards night 2019. We're hosting those tonight. We're recording this on Friday. AV Week will post on Monday, so by the time you see this or hear this, actually Neto and I will be back in New York, don't ask. With me to discuss all the news and information of the week, first and foremost, our host for this week, Mr. Clive Caldwell. Thank you, sir.
Hello. Welcome to our new studio.
It's gorgeous, thank you.
Fantastic acoustics.
Brilliant
videographer.
David said that this is the first thing we've ever shot in here. You've ever shot in here.
Exactly. Well, people can't hear us scream from the outside.
Well, that's helpful.
We're soundproofed, so we can do anything we like.
Next to you, because he'll make us scream. Mr. Mike Blackman from ISE, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for the invitation again.
Absolutely. Mike's in town, obviously, for the awards tonight. And my cohort for the week, Mr. Chris Neto. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
I'm all right.
I've had 48 plus hours of Tim Albright, so...
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I've been here since Sunday. I got to go see the Bears game at Tottenham. Fantastic experience, for the record.
Actually, you shouldn't mention Tottenham here at the moment.
Okay, is that a thing?
FC Bayern beat them with cricket scores.
Okay, yes. So we've got cricket, we've got football, and we've got football. Okay.
But they've got a great stadium.
I can only talk about
It's a gorgeous stadium. Yeah. It's a gorgeous stadium. As a Bears fan, not a great ending. But the one thing I was fascinated by is the technology. My understanding is Daktronics did the ribbon around the stadium. The NFL brought in the Raiders team because it was a Raiders home game. And the graphics, the content was seamless. It did not feel like it was cut and paste, right? They had taken the time to really kind of utilize the technology in Tottenham Stadium to really make it feel like a home game as much as you can.
The boys are going to be at the AV Awards. They've got a table.
Okay.
They're going to be AV Awards night, so we'll try and catch up with everything else. But they've had to produce something that's just slick, prevents everybody from seeing footy on their television at home, and it offers an amazing experience. I think they've spent a lot of time and effort into delivering that, really.
Yeah. Mike, we'll start with you on this, actually. Just about a week ago, this is the 11th of October, if my calendar, both mentally and physically is right. About a week ago, 10 days ago, October 1, ISE registration opened. Last year in Amsterdam, Chris and I have been, we've been going, this will be our 5th or 6th year covering it. Real quickly, what does it mean, kind of going into it as both from the European standpoint, but also from North American integrators that are looking to come over? What's one or two things that you're looking forward to as this, not just the last year in Amsterdam, but it's still an ISE. Yeah. So what are you looking forward to?
I mean, firstly, Amsterdam has been great for us. It really has. It's helped us. It's been part of the ingredient that's actually helped make ISE successful as a venue and location. One thing we look at every show is actually saying when everybody comes away from home to do business for a week, you need somewhere where you say, well, that's a fun place to go to as well. Yeah. And the result is all the industry creates events around the whole show, and Amsterdam's been a really good host for that. So ISE is not just the exhibition, it's everything that goes on around it, from people who get in the weekend before to only leaving the weekend afterwards. I walk around the city at the weekend and I'm saying hi to everybody. I can't go incognito. Yeah. So we're sad to leave for that reason, but we've outgrown the city. I think my famous words when we did the announcement was that, we've had a great home, but we've outgrown it. We need a bigger house and a bigger yard. And that's what we've got in Barcelona. So we're sad to leave it. We've had some great memories, some great shows there. It's been a tremendous event, and we're going to go out with a bang. We're not going to wreck the place, but we're really going to make sure that this is the best ISE ever until now. Yeah. And then we're building up from that to the new venue, which has given us so much potential for growth and creating a new show. One of the things that's happened is we've had to squeeze in, and we've built the show, and we've had a bit there and a bit there and a bit here, and the show's got too big to get around in the whole show. So we have to focus sectors, and going to Barcelona gives us the opportunity now to actually say, let's create one area where we've got all the digital signage, one area where we've got residential. You're going to see a lot of live events, some new things for pro audio. We haven't been able to actually create demo rooms for the pro audio sector, and we have that opportunity now. So a lot of new things we're doing. We're really trying to revamp what we're doing and offer the industry what it wants in terms of the new show in Barcelona.
All right, very cool. You guys have also started creating small sections and shows around ISE as well. So.
Absolutely. This year, we branched out to having a bit of the show in the Acora Hotel just up the road. So you'll see most of the conferences being run there, and quite a lot of special events, hosted events from manufacturers. So, building up the whole thing. I always said at the very beginning when we started ISE, it has to be more than an exhibition. It has to be an event, and everyone else contributing to that. What's going on, not just on the show floor, has actually contributed to that. So we've actually brought out some other locations where there are events going on. You'd be amazed at how many non-exhibitors are creating events for their customers to come to Amsterdam, and then saying, well, let's have a dinner here, or you guys do something as well. You do a drinks event, don't you, somewhere?
Yes, I can never remember where that is. It's somewhere.
I'm inviting you all to Clive's drinks event.
Yeah,
somewhere fluid.
Typically in your booth, though, is really
well.
It's everywhere, but you can be in the booth. Yes, we try and be incognito so people don't remember where they've been. But on this Barcelona,
in that space, in the 15 different halls, it is kind of easy to do that.
But on this Barcelona thing, it's fantastic. The Catalans are going to love it. The Spanish are going to be flocking by their thousands. Having been there for both Formula One reporting and coverage and the big telecom shows, there were so few hotel spaces left. I had to stay in a boat in the harbour. I also went there to cover the Barcelona Olympics, so I know what large groups do in Barcelona. But you've got to go to these big venues, especially the big engineering shows, to see how the big venues are so beautifully managed and big and accommodate. Some of these companies don't know what they can do until they get into a big venue. So I think it's going to absolutely transform ISE into a very different event, actually. So I can't wait.
And give the manufacturers some space to play with.
Well, actually, what we've been doing in the last months is taking most of the top exhibitors. So we did an event back in May where we took the top 200 ISE exhibitors. We invited them to Barcelona. We hosted them there. We showed them the venue. We showed them the city, and we did a big evening event for them just to show what it has to offer. So these guys start to get a bit of an idea of, okay, this is what we can do here. This is what the venue looks like, but here's the rest of the city. And I already know about things which, I've got a list of all the hotels that have been booked by all the companies so far, and everyone's starting to plan. This is going to be our headquarters now, and this is where we're going to be. And they've now got the opportunity to actually say, when our major exhibitors come in with a couple of hundred people, and they're splitting all over the town. They want to bring them together. So now, we're trying to help them with that by putting them in touch. We've blocked all the hotels in the city through the Convention Bureau to actually give them opportunity and lock down the prices so that we don't get this explosion of high prices. So we're doing a lot of preparation on that, but mostly getting everyone there beforehand to see what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, taking from a couple of different angles here, you've been with me to ISE. You also worked for an exhibitor. Now you work for a distributor. What does a move like this mean for those of us in the U.S. that are looking at this, going, okay, this is Amsterdam this year, but Barcelona's next year? Looking at it, saying, okay, which way, or am I going to both years? Am I making a choice here?
I don't think you're going to see a change. I think the American audience has bought in. They will come. You throw a party, we're showing up.
Yeah,
sorry,
right.
it's kind of the way it works nowadays.
Clive's paying for the drinks.
That's
I
it.
know.
He's
Obviously,
got
yes.
the tab, so we're all
Although I
right.
won't remember having done it afterwards.
but we're recording this, so
That's on
Record
record,
away.
please.
exactly.
So yeah, for the American audience that's listening to the podcast and going, is this going to change? It's not going to change a thing. For the integrators, the manufacturers, the integrators are still going. ISE has done something very nice for the industry in the sense that that's where you're getting a lot of those early product announcements are being done there.
It was over 250 last year, Mike.
Even more than that, actually. That's it. They're just the ones we know about.
Okay.
I think we've been lucky because of the timing. Being at the beginning of the year, display companies are launching consumer products at CES, and then they're coming to us with the professional versions, or sometimes some of the same things. But that start of the year, when we started, all the product announcements used to be in June at Infocom. And then slowly everyone started moving their R&D around to actually doing a lot of announcements, particularly for the European market in January. But even with that, I actually spoke to some integrators once that said, American integrators, I met on the show floor, and I said, what are you doing here? We have this really great show in the US. He said, yeah, but we go there as well. But we have to keep ahead of the market. And there's so much happening throughout the year. We need to be at ISE in January. And a lot of them are actually doing international business as well. So,
Well, and the other part of that is we were talking with Jeremy Caldera from IAS a couple weeks ago. And Jeremy has, he's in leadership in Avixa as well. But he made the comment, he said, I go to ISE now so I can get work done. Because if you're a volunteer with Avixa, your Infocom is taken up, and vendors want to meet with you and this and that, because they look at Infocom as the place where you have meetings with Jeremy, right? Because he's a U.S. integrator. He goes to ISE so he can roam the floor, so he can be an attendee, and kind of ebb and flow and kind of see what's going on. So yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, most integrators and even the manufacturers, at least at Infocom, has always been the meetings.
Yeah.
Right? So, yes, there's an education component to it, but, the behind the scenes is you're setting up meetings and client meetings. That's why I think Vegas is very successful for Infocom. Me personally thinking that, because you have a lot of different places where you can take people out for dinners and to do product briefs or a lunch and learn during the show itself. So it's an important cog of how business is done aside from the actual show. So if you have those spaces, and Barcelona will provide that, you have the spaces to host, you can bring in the celebrity CEO of the company who is going to, possibly reveal something interesting that will change how integrators are going to do business. Yeah. You're seeing that at Infocom, and those are kind of the unadvertised stuff that happens in the back. But you're bringing that to ISE as well. And one of the things that I am a fan of with ISE is that for the last couple of years, not a couple of years, for the last 10 years, products and mindset is very much influenced by the residential side. And I'm a commercial guy through and through. But I go home and I have an Alexa. So in a place where I can see where the trends are coming from on the residential side, because my executives go home, right? Whether I'm a distributor, manufacturer, or an integrator, the person who signs the checks for my technology to be installed goes home and turns on his phone, and the lights are on, checks to see if his car is still in the driveway, depends on where he lives, and asks Alexa where the weather is, and then we'll the next day go into the office, and I'm a former technology manager, and ask if they can integrate Alexa into the HVAC system of a major corporation. Not what I would suggest, but I saw that happening 10 years ago. So to be in a place where I can go and speak to a residential integrator and say, how are you guys handling this? How do you handle security? Which is much different.
Oh, yeah.
But at least you can physically see it, because what are me and you going to do? We're going to go to the local big box electronics store, whichever one still remains open, and ask these questions, and maybe we'll get a 16-year-old who's going to tell us something, but they're not going to give us the information to the level that would need. And and for the most part, at a commercial show, you're not going to get those conversations, but at ISE you will,
because of the cross pollination between.
So that's to me that's a major point of attraction to a show like that, combining the two.
All right, February 11th to the 14th. You go ISE Europe, iseurope.org to register. So I want to switch this up a bit. Chris and I are in the UK. I'm not going to get into politics. You guys do, talk about what.
As do I.
But there are business ramifications to what's going on inside the UK today.
Supposedly,
actually.
yes.
Boris Johnson, your prime minister, actually met with the Irish leader yesterday.
Indeed,
apparently.
yes.
There was pictures all over the front
Mr.
pages.
Radke, yes.
He has set a deadline for October 31st to remove the UK from the European Union. You guys call it Brexit.
Yeah.
Obviously, Chris and I still trying to understand the whole thing.
It's going to replace Monopoly as a new board game.
Apparently, yes.
There's never an ending, but it's a great process all the way through.
There's a real business impact here to the AV community. I've talked with AV manufacturers over the last year who are actively pursuing other offices outside of London.
Yes.
Or outside of the UK in general.
Yes.
Some of them are going to Paris, some of them are going to Amsterdam. But that they're not removing themselves completely from the UK, but they're making preparations to negate some of this impact.
Yes.
How are you guys looking at this, and what's the impact that you're seeing?
I asked these people 2 years ago what they were doing, and they were planning quite a long time ago. They have an interchangeable system. It takes 2 minutes to move your chain around and move your offices around. Okay. It's no big deal to the larger AV companies. It is to the smaller ones because they're having to buy product and everything else. They put their inventory on hold, and there may well be supply problems for the smaller companies, I would think. But the big boys have it planned. They're acting globally. They're telling me they're working globally. So I said, right, let's see them global now then.
Yeah.
And Brexit is a mere flick. We've joined a common market, but the whole thing has become political, and that's not what we signed up for, in a nutshell. So no one's reporting this accurately at the moment, but it is holding up trade in a way that's underpinning the efficiency of it. But I think all the big boys have sussed this out a while back. Yeah, people are making noises because they'll use any excuse to alter their pricing or put their customers on the back foot. No one will ever say they're having an easy time, but I would be disappointed if they hadn't made proper plans and already had it licked.
Yeah.
So they'll tell one side to the public and one side internally, and they will be, as far as I'm concerned, most are operating pretty efficiently and to swap things around and have their supplies checked because they're thinking globally. You've got Midwich thinking globally. Yeah. You've got all these big companies working around the road. They'll always have local glitches, but nothing. It's the smaller companies I feel for because they are vulnerable, probably.
Yeah, Midwich. You mentioned them. They've made several purchases the last couple of years.
They have
to kind of offset some of this, and they've got offices outside of the UK just through purchase and acquisition.
Yes.
So. Mike, you've got a unique position here, and
I'm a Brit sitting in Europe.
Exactly. You're
the Germans think we're nuts. They cannot see the point at all of why we're even bothering to do it.
If you look at it from my, and I'm obviously seeing from the German point of view because that's the newspapers I read and see, but I'm reading the UK ones as well. Unfortunately, I think I've got a balanced point of view. I'm reading both.
Always balanced, Mike.
I've got 3 points of view. The first one is my personal one, which is I'm starting to think, do I become a German citizen now to make my EU travel? And
I thought you were, Mike.
You see, I did this stupid thing. That's not so stupid. I kept my British passport because I said, why do I need to change to a German passport? And now I'm getting to the stage where I'm thinking, maybe I should. But so that's the personal point of view. And I'm not worried about living in Germany or travelling back to the UK with a British passport. I'm worried about my travel in the rest of the European Union. We've just opened up a Spanish company now, and I'm starting to think, well, actually, how does that affect my British status living in Germany as well? But those are issues I think will be solved quite easily. The main issues start actually on the business side, where we look at our ISE exhibitors. The first ISE we did in Geneva. Now, as we know, Geneva's in Europe, but it's not in Europe. And I think the UK is going to the same position.
Explain that to the big dumb American here.
So, Geneva, Switzerland is in physically, geographically in Europe, but it's not in the European Union.
There we go.
And so what actually happens is when it comes to actually moving goods around, you have to go through all this paperwork. And it was one of the biggest complaints we got from manufacturers coming from everywhere else in Europe to exhibit at UK, filling out these carnets and paperwork, and we got so much flack for it. It was unbelievable. So my concern now comes from all those UK exhibitors we have who will actually go through that same process again when coming to, whether we stay in Amsterdam or go to, Barcelona, wherever we're going, they're going to have that issue of actually, they have to fill out all that paperwork to move their exhibits and their products into the exhibits and back again. We do as much as we can to try and facilitate. We're trying to work out with Barcelona to actually, we think we've got a way maybe to make it a tax-free zone for, for some of the ways the paperwork's being done, but they still have to do the paperwork. And that we know is really a bane for a lot of people. So that's the first part. What we've seen as well, and what we're hearing, is a lot of companies who are shipping from the US or China or Japan have had central warehousing in Europe. One of the easiest places to ship into in Europe, if you're going by sea, is Rotterdam.
Okay.
It's the big shipping port in Europe. Containers are coming in. They've got this automated. I mean, the whole thing's run by computers. Don't walk around; you get run over. Yeah. So they're now having to say, how do we deal with the UK and put additional facilities in the UK now to actually deal with that? And the problem is, I don't think everybody has the solution yet. Everyone's working towards it to say, how do we deal with this, or will we have to deal with this? Because those are issues that have not been solved. I really, really hope that part of the whole settlement, whichever way it goes, but if it goes to the fact that the UK does Brexit, and what I'm hearing in the news this morning, the Irish backstop solution seems to be almost there. So if that happens, then I am thinking a Brexit will happen at the end of this month. And I think a lot of people are sitting in the air waiting to say, do we stay or do we go?
Is it as easy, and it's as easy as Clive said, where come November 1st, the companies that have their ducks in a row, that have their papers in order,
I think so.
They're just going to flip a switch.
Yeah, I think so. This whole thing's been I wouldn't say misreported, but the emphasis is all wrong. The most serious element of all this is what we do with the Irish question, and after all those troubles.
And real briefly, the Irish question for, again, big dumb American.
We have Northern Ireland is part of the UK,
okay.
And we had the troubles with independence, with Southern Ireland and the border, and the Irish wanted Ireland for Ireland, but we're stuck with all these hundreds of years of history, and we eventually came to agreement after all the terrorist troubles and everything else that they would have a parliament and people would get self-governed and so on. In Stormont would have a representative of everybody. That took years to achieve, and it was a huge agreement, and that is, to my mind, the most important thing we get right. And there has been some suspicion that the Leo Varadkar, who is the TSOC, the guy who rules Southern Ireland, has been playing his sort of card to keep us in Europe rather than keep out. And then now really we need to tackle it hard and stop messing about. We need to get a decent agreement how we're going to tackle that border question without threatening that agreement. And that, to my mind, is much more important than in Europe. Don't forget, I lived through going in Europe, which is a far more hassle-free. Mm-hmm. We're going to lose a queen, and a whole war generation which were cheesed off by going. Now we are European. We live in Europe. There's no difference between us. The difference is being in the politics, but everybody else is sharing that view. It's not just the UK. We need to boost Europe, but I think it's outlived its usefulness. There has to be a currency of race. There are lots of good things about the European setup, but we are now operating globally. But that doesn't mean to say it's going to threaten trade into Europe. And Europe needs us as much as we need them. And we get them really well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, especially as we as an industry kind of make our own transitions. So
people always have problems delivering locally. Everybody tries to think global and deliver local, but whether you're in the EU or not, it's always a hassle. Yeah. It's always local currency difficulties.
Chris, this will be interesting. Chris, if you don't know, hosts a chat every Sunday morning, Eastern time. Make sure that we say that, Eastern time. Mm-hmm. You start at 7 a.m. Eastern? So
8 a.m. Eastern on
8
Sundays.
a.m. Eastern. So I get 7 a.m. my time. So as you're talking with folks, because folks all over the world jump in on your chats, we've met a number of them here, both last year and this year, both. What do you think? I think your biggest sense going into the next year or two. The U.S. has its own issues. I won't get into those.
Please, no tariff questions, man.
Yeah, and that's a whole other conversation too. What are people talking about? Is it Brexit? Is it tariffs? Or is it, what? I've got to figure out how to make a sales presentation tomorrow morning to land this job.
Well, as you know, I try to stay away from the politics as much as possible. And this is a fiery, fiery, fiery topic. I mean, when I wake up at 8 o'clock, I wake up a lot earlier on Sundays. When I launch the chat on Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock, The first ones out are the people that are chatting, that are coming in from Germany and from the UK. And a big chunk of AV and the AM's early conversations are starting here in Europe. And I let them go. I moderate, depends on whatever question I'm putting out there. But almost on a weekly basis, a Brexit comment comes out. And they always break off into their side, and there's always a little discussion amongst themselves of what Brexit is going to do to impact it. Fortunately, AV and the AM is not impacted by Brexit, and we have no trade tariffs to worry about, so
Not yet.
operate freely. But yeah, there's some concern. But a lot of the guys that are there, the people I'm talking to, are not high-level CEOs, are not getting up. They may be watching and lurking. I know you're out there. But the ones that are talking are the blue-collar workers. These are guys that are getting up every morning. Their biggest fear is, like anything else, the decisions made above. How is that going to impact their livelihood?
Yeah.
And that is a big concern, whether they're voicing that on social or privately offline telling me that. You know, it is a concern. For us in the States, it's hard for us to understand Brexit right now. Maybe years ago when we separated from you guys. I mean, that's
We weren't around.
We weren't around, but
And that was much messier.
and that was a bit of a fight. But I could say that, you know, once you start getting into affecting a person's way of living, and the first thing, and I'm one of those, you know, if you're going to affect the way I can provide for my family, it sends me into panic mode, right? And you start preparing for that. So I guess from the bigger conversations, we all look at the high level, right? We all look at how companies are going to deal. Just as long as everybody just kind of takes a breath and understands that the technicians, the warehouse techs, the purchasing managers, the people that are not on the front lines, may not be executives. They're the ones that are probably going to be hit the hardest.
Yeah.
Similar to what you said. You know, some of the biggest concerns, everybody's looking at very high level concerns, but how is it going to affect the small people? I don't think people are vocalizing that just yet. On AV and AM, I've gotten those from the back, you know, kind of on the side, and there's some genuine concern, but it's business as usual, because that's what the companies are telling them. Business as usual, but just like anything else, you kind of sleep with one eye open and wait and see what happens. And if this does go down, I think the tone will completely change, and then people will get fiery, right?
I think at the end of the day, everyone's concerned about how does it affect me. And, you know, it's always the first question. Yes, you know, how it affects me also, how it affects my company affects me too. Yep. But I think, and maybe a lot of the issues on Brexit is misinformation, misunderstanding, no real clarity about really what are the consequences, you know, of this or that on both sides. Yep. So I think there's a lot of confusion that goes around, and I think it's really a wait and see at the moment. Everyone's going to say, okay, what's going to happen?
Well, there's a lot of dissatisfaction with everybody's political systems at the minute. So we're having new generations coming through, three generations removed from the old war generation that repeated the status quo we all grew up in a very disciplined and sound environment. And now we're seeing people who have very different views and don't want to do things differently, and are rethinking just how good our politicians are and whether our systems are fit for purpose or not. And quite frankly, you know, democracy is under quite a threat at the minute, generally speaking, because just because you speak more loudly doesn't mean to say you shouldn't let the other side have an equal say in what's going on. And actually, people forget that you know, a large number of people voted to come out, and that's the thing that Parliament should be respecting rather than being held in contempt as it currently is, and delivering what the people voted for. And that would be the same for America, for any other country. So that's what I'm worried about. But I think it's a passing phase whilst they all grow up.
You're 100% right there.
Yes.
In the sense that my belief in politics is you can do whatever you want. You won't have a job if it's up to me the next time. Because the way politics work is one thing behind closed doors. But the way democracy works, we go to the polls. You mess up my livelihood, you're out of a job. Because the people will say, and the people will speak. So that's the way I look at it. So go ahead. You want to mess it up? We'll fix it. We'll throw you out, and then we'll correct what you did wrong and fix it. But I don't want to do that.
What is coming out of it is much more scrutiny on the politicians that serve us. You know, what their private interests are, who are they responsible to. That's on both sides of the pond.
Absolutely.
You know,
both sides of the pond, both sides of the aisle. You know, whether you're conservative or liberal.
Yeah.
Actually, I have no vote. I left the UK and I moved to Germany. And because I'm not a German citizen, I can't vote in Germany. And because I've been out the UK more than 10 years, I can't vote in the UK either.
That's a bad position
It's
to
a
be
bad
in.
position.
You might want to fix that somewhere.
Well, it was then a consolation. I can't fit in the polling booth anyway, so it sort of solves the problem.
Ours in the States are more open air. And
Yes.
I can still fit in mine.
Wonderful.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you so much. This was a fascinating conversation. Mr. Chris Netto, thanks for hanging out with me this week.
Thank you.
How do people get a hold of you and or Starin? I will mention the fact that Starin is moving into Europe, has moved into Europe now. So I'll be interested to talk to you and our buddy Bobby Schwartz, see how that goes the next year.
Bobby's the man when you want to talk to, especially regarding the Brexit and all that sort of stuff.
He's actually I did another episode of my executive chair with Bobby, so he'll be coming out in another 2-3 months. So
Wait a minute. Is that what you call a tease?
yes, that's a tease. Come on, I'm a professional.
Awesome. So if you would like to find out more information about Starin, you can find us on the web at starin.biz. Me, I'm on the internet. I'm easy to find. Chris _Netto on Twitter. You can find me Sundays doing my chores at #AV in the AM. And thank you for Clive. Thank you for having us here in the UK. I love coming to
I
London.
hope you like our studio. It's come on, hasn't it?
Your studio's top notch.
We're separated off from everybody. We're isolated splendidly in this room, I think.
Is this where you come to hide now?
Sadly not. But I have thought about having a snooze occasionally, but I haven't done
You
it.
can have your coffee in here on that nice mug.
Yes, that's a good idea. That's good. That's a good excuse.
Mr. Caldwell, thank you, sir. How do people get a hold of you or AV Magazine?
Well, I hope they don't get a hold of me. Thank you. I'm faking a lot, of course. AVinteractive.com, at AVMag on Twitter.
Yes.
And, I suppose they'll be getting hold of me this evening at the AV Awards.
Yes, sir.
As indeed you
Yes,
will
indeed.
be.
Well, that's the rumor that we're showing up.
But I try and make myself scarce,
I
usually
understand.
most of the time.
Yeah.
I'm sometimes seen, I'm sometimes not.
All right.
Best way.
Mr. Blackman, thank you, sir, as always.
Thank you also.
How do people get a hold of you or ISE, or how do they register?
Well, to register, registration is now open. Go to iseurope.org. So remember ISEUROPE, Europe, that big place out there, .org.
Just mention Mike's name,
Yes.
it's fine.
The other side of the river. The other side of the river.
We're still in.
Yes.
And you can reach me at on Twitter at ISE_Mike. Otherwise, go to the website, come and join us, be at ISE, 11th to 14th of February in Amsterdam. The last year, come and enjoy Amsterdam.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be there. We'll be hanging out probably the Saturday or Sunday beforehand. So thank you guys so much. For us, for AVNation, don't follow me on the Twitters because, well, if you were on the Twitters last night with Mr. Netto and I, you somehow saw me in a tie-dye shirt. So
tie-dye.
I missed that one.
yeah, check out Chris's Periscope. So, but seriously, go by the website, avnation.tv, avnation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others. Also, by the time this post, I mentioned the fact that Chris and I will both be back in New York for New York Digital Signage Week, so that coverage will be there as well. We'll be doing a live program from Daktronics in the middle of Times Square Monday at 2 o'clock Eastern, so you can check that out. So also while you're there, check out our supporter section. These are the folks who help us financially, help us bring you AV Week and New York Digital Signage Week and Resi Week and ISE coverage from Amsterdam in 2020. All that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.